I didn't. I'm not on the Wi-Fi, but sometimes my phone, because I'm still next to the house, is gonna have might connect to the Wi-Fi and then confuse itself. Let me make sure while I'm pulling away that I'm not on Wi-Fi. Good. All right. So I haven't seen the back rooms yet, but I've seen all the back rooms videos, on YouTube, and I've been a casual fan of um, all this stuff, right? Very particularly, like if I'm scrolling at like 10, 11 o'clock, something like that, Instagram or whatever, if I come across some clip of somebody exploring the back rooms, the pool rooms, the whatever, um, like I check it out. I'm interested in seeing like exactly what kind of creative, clever way they're going to play with this space, and the oddities of what's entailed. Right, there is this sense of the '90s very critical to it, and I think that of course is the key. And I may be saying stuff that a whole bunch of other people are picking up on, but this also will build into my other thoughts, if not in this video, in other videos, right? And you can check out things like I did a fucking breakdown with Slick Dissident of The Shining, which gets into liminal space stuff, right? Because we've never had a full-blown liminal movie. We have had movies with significant liminal scenes. I mean, hell, the mirror universe in Doctor Strange, that gets into liminality, using conceptualization of a fractal, three-dimensional fractal space that you're operating in, that is doing all of this stuff, right? So, even though it's aesthetically in the 90s, it is operating on what is to become the future, which is the sameness of everything, right? Because you're looking at, the beginning of just like walking into an office and it's endless drywall and it's endless, like 2x2 ceiling grid for all of the electrical and duct work and things like that. This is what kind of becomes of this stuff, right? And so this has been creeping up on us for a long time. We are in denial that we don't have control of what we thought was our general experience of life. And 2001 was not that different from 1999, right? Just like 2024 is not that different than 2026, right? So on and so forth. You can talk about how 2019 was dramatically different from 2021. So this is where humanity went through this dramatic difference, this forced difference, this disagreeable difference in who and what we were to each other, and where we wanted to go, and and our idea of who we were, right? So our sense of ourselves in time and space has been falling apart since 9/11, effectively, right? The Y2K virus was about a time loop, right? It was about, what if in a computer simulation you were living in a time loop, and that what people were projecting as their fears out of Y2K, which is that your computer is going to think that it is the year 1901 or something. This was the idea, and that if it thought it was 1901, it was gonna have all sorts of logistical issues, and automation was gonna make things go sideways, and you were gonna blow yourselves up because you didn't, trust that the system was gonna behave properly because the numbers weren't going to be set up, or like the fact, like Y2K ought to tell you about where human consciousness was at the time, because it wasn't like imagine if you had a calendar clock in the old world, like, looking into our Tartaria research. Imagine you just had a clock, like, with a calendar on it. Like, it's not the first time we've had fucking machines, and then, like, what if somebody said, oh my god, if people look up at the clock, they'll never know that it's 1900 today. And everybody's gonna fucking, like, you can't even fucking contemplate that, how anybody would behaviorally go and do something stupid, or that something stupid would happen automatically because of the machine. That wasn't gonna happen. And the only thing that happened is that it did what it was supposed to do, like the day yesterday. And that's all that fucking happened. It just had to be programmed with the right time and date. Right? Which it tells you a lot about what we were thinking about forethought with computer technology as we were standardizing everything into the 80s or something, right? And so as human beings, I think we're falling apart on our conceptualization of what we want to keep the same and what we want to change. Being in the back rooms is begging for something to be different. That's the idea. You're stuck in here, and when is it not just going to be miles and miles of freaking hallways and turn corners, right? When will any of the furniture make sense, right? And since 9/11, I think we've been waiting for a lot of things to make sense and didn't realize it as we kept ourselves distracted with basically the media machine, right? And so it's like we've been living in liminal pop culture anyway, Scary Movie 7 is kind of like liminal writing. It's just like reprocess the same joke with none of the fucking effort to write a new joke, to write it in a better freaking situation. Right? And it's so, like, you're stuck in the year that held the largest memory for you for that movie, right? Why did Matrix 4 have to regurgitate? Well, Tom Althouse will tell you why Matrix 4 had to regurgitate everything. But the point is that why did it have to be so on the nose regurgitory, right? Only getting away with it because it did have some aspect of something interesting written to be explored in it, while exploring the concept of here we are again. Because that's the back rooms. Every time you think you've done something meaningful, no, you're just in the same, it's pretty much the same space. It's uncanny valley different, which makes it not different at all. It's not significant enough of a difference for you. We don't think bazillion facsimiles of concept And that's what the Backrooms is. In fact, you make Backrooms movies and videos the same way. You kind of procedurally generate the same thing over again. So, these movies come out, The Odyssey, Gladiator 2, whatever, and it's just like there's a particular procedure that worked somewhere else and you're doing it again. It either worked in the same film in that franchise or it worked, but it was a different measure of success by somebody else doing the same thing in the industry. So this is the Backrooms, right? And so you're, the Backrooms is drowning in a place and time, until you know what it is. You know what it is, right? Because there's an understanding of the quote bacteria, right? That's the entity. That's the squiggly mechanical entity, which by the way, that entity does kind of look like some of the really, really, really weird UAP footages that you've seen. Go look up all the weird UAP footage from the Jersey drone incident. You'll see some stuff that was just like, it may not be like stick figure-y, but the way you look at it, its design is like, what the fuck are you looking at is what it is. And that is kind of the sense of the what the fuck you're looking at with a lot of these entities. Like, it reminds me of, I think it was called the Tommyknockers, where you are lost in a place, you were stuck in a place in time. Like, you didn't move on with time, and now you're stuck in one place in time, which is like, I don't know, this like an airport or something. So you're stuck in this place in time, but you can't stay there forever. There's a threat that's coming for you, and honestly, I think like the dude may not even know it. I don't know if he's if he ever watched the Tommyknockers, right? Because certainly this would be like, this would be a psychological thriller, like slow pace grind, the way it really builds the fear of the Tommyknockers. And I think that these bacterium things, they work like the Tommyknockers. This is the force, the outer force in the natural world that's looking at you living in an unnatural state. You are becoming the parasite, and the quote bacteria is eating you because it's eating everything that's stuck in this anomaly. Oops. So I cut that a little too stupid. Bear with me. There we go. Try to do this fast. Everybody's in a parking lot, and I don't want to be the guy everybody's angry at because I don't know how to park. All right, there we go. Great. Okay, so the Backrooms is this place, and so we've been living in irreconcilable trauma in our, on our collective conscious level. It's a secondary effect to the forced social engineering of the elites, right? Which is a gross interpretation of what has been co-signed by, the non-elites. Like there's three levels of society. There's you, there's people that are like you, but the elites have to convince, and then there's the elites, okay? This is why the conspiracy is not what you think that it is, and you can't just sit there and, blame some people with some mythology that makes them think they're special, right? Even though, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that want to put those people that think they're special in that position because they believe the mythology that makes them special. So much so that they want to be a part of that. And so they will lie and make themselves that to inherit it. They want to inherit the special sauce that you can only be born in by the mythos that makes you special, privileged, bee's knees of this life, right? So it's a good enticer for psychos. Anyway, right? So those people, they aren't the ones making the back room. But what they do has made the conditions where we are experiencing the back room on the back end of those conditions out of our inability to reconcile change and loss. Right? We feel trapped in a post-Patriot Act world. We feel trapped in a post-pandemic protocols world. We feel trapped in a post-housing crisis world. Like, back in the day when we had, like, things like Great Depressions and wars and pandemics. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, not the pandemics, because you learned during COVID that the Spanish influenza also, they did lockdowns and masks. They occulted that from you for a fucking 100 years. Go back, and if you weren't paying attention to people revealing shit during the pandemic, go back and look up, masks and quarantine procedures. Go look how they handled, on the civilian level, the Spanish influenza, the true winner of World War I, the Spanish flu, which was a globalist plot because we didn't want to reconcile the damage that chemical warfare that we had introduced into the horrors of war, into industrial warfare. Right? And we've been dying of industrial byproducts for a long time now. Radiation poisoning, Agent Orange, byproducts of various chemicals you're working with in industry, so on and so forth. And so all this stuff is accumulated in kind of like, the back rooms is kind of like you've had a mind palace, but now you've just got a mind rental office that's unrenovated, falling apart, poorly furnished. And it's got hostile squatters in it. And you don't have a means of navigating it or being in control of anything in the situation. And so the film taps into the feeling of all this stuff, so that way I can fucking interpret it, tell you about it, and accomplish something healthy for everybody, right? Because you know that everything that we've lost since the 90s has been, some of the most significant stuff we've lost since then has been replaced with absolute shit. There was no legacy carrying it into the next generation, right? It's one thing if you close your business because you're old and your kid didn't want to get into it, and that is a bummer in and of itself. It's quite another thing when you look at, say, the transition of power under a corporate entity like Marvel and Disney, and when that same generation folds out, it does inherit new people, but it doesn't inherit people that were progenies of the source material. You've got people that only care about making it in their image, right? You can't jump the shark with an IP. If a band makes one kind of an album and then without any fucking thing and using the same marketing, the same brand name identity, releases a completely out of nowhere album that makes no fucking sense logically to the other album. Look, I'm an Opeth fan, right? You see that? The band don't sound nothing like that. I love every fucking Opeth album. They went through an evolution. They went through creative changes. When they went soft, it was expected because of everything they did and the prior soft album they put out before that and the other album that was like half soft or whatever. And so you could kind of feel like he's probably going to make another soft album, or in fact go soft. In fact, he didn't even call it soft, he calls it smooth because it's still heavy. You know, when you listen to the attitude in the in the rhythm chops, when you listen to the emphasis in the drums, you know, it's just, you know, like it wanted to go for 70s hard rock, maybe 70s, like, you know, hard rock metal, you know, but you didn't feel lost with the band, right? You didn't be like, oh, what is this shit? This is betrayal. It's just like, no, it was just like, oh, okay, so this is where they went. All right, it's a lot like the six songs across those other 5 previous albums or something, right? And so you're like, okay, you get it, and there's nothing really to argue about in terms. Okay. Anyway, so you've got a lot of people where it's just like, you ever meet somebody who they're really into a nostalgia of a thing and it's their entire fucking identity, right? That's a person who's got the back rooms in his inner world where he's living over and over and over again in like his particular like thing that he's into in a particular time and place, right? Which is aspects of insanity. There's a really sad storyline in King of the Hill with that dude with the ex-wife. Blah. For one thing, he's got the ex-wife thing. His psychology's already there for it as this average boomer normie, right? And then there's this Christmas episode that involves Christmas where he gets all this joy because he does being Santa Claus really well. And it was really good for a couple days up till Christmas, maybe a day or so after Christmas. But then, of course, the season has passed. And then he's sitting there, he's still putting up the Christmas decorations, and his friends had to put an intervention on him, right? Because being in that Christmas thing, dressing up like Santa, like he was getting the love of a family that he never was able to produce with the woman that he regrets having, and he was trying to have that experience permanently for himself, saying, if I keep doing this, people will show up because I'm doing such a great job. I'm the one that makes it Christmas, right? Which, this is a self-destructive narcissism because he's not going out and acting upon others about it, but he is denying reality and denying his own life in pursuant of trying to make people this thing, which can be damaging because if he turns predatory about it, he's now seeking out children, and now he's fucking turned into the monster that kidnaps a child just so he can create the experience with a kidnapped child of forcing them to enjoy him being Santa Claus, right? And so that's kind of like what happens to the main character at the end of the back rooms with the captain character, right? That captain character is like, what is Bill Daltrey, I think his name was, whatever the guy in King of the Hill was. That's the King of the Hill guy in the Santa Claus outfit. Get it? If I want to go back into making music like the way I did when I rage quit music in the pandemic, because I still care about making music, even though it is what it is. I have to be different, and I have to be in reality of who I am and what the world is today in June of 2026, not what it was in the summer of 2020. That is the challenge, right? You don't want to be a state of stuck in that, right? It's like, like I spent plenty of years. Hang on a second.
That's a cool pipe that you have.
Oh, thank you, man. All right, cool.
Smoke it.
What am I smoking?
Yeah.
My own stuff. Listen, I'm on a live stream right now. I'll catch you later.
My fault.
No worries, dude. It's okay. Just some guy who likes my pipe. So, right, this is why we need self-awareness, why we need reflection. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen in any backrooms footage. I don't know if it's in the movie, but I haven't seen in any backrooms footage mirrors. That ought to be a tell for you, right? And it like, wouldn't a mirror just double fuck it? Because like a mirror would show you what's behind you going endlessly in front of you, but you're already in a space that does that. You don't need mirrors. It is a mirror being in the back rooms. You don't need mirrors at all, right? And so there's no reflection, right? I think even when you see the pool rooms, there's no point where you're seeing your hand, like in the first person shots, like you don't see yourself reflected in the waters even, right? So there's very little reflection. And so, yeah, it's about being lost in one particular time and space, and which it is all vacant except for yourself. It's not functional. It doesn't make sense. It's unpleasant to be there, right? It's like we should have gone on a different trajectory since the 90s. And it's not about going back to the 90s. And unfortunately, it's not about going back to 9/11. It's about when the fuck are you gonna stop going into the back fucking rooms and move forward? The back rooms is back thought, afterthought. What is your forethought? What is your Lucifer principle? What is your Promethean spark? That is the difference. All right, now I'm going to go make a difference of all this visceral fat I can't get rid of. All right, I'll catch you later.